Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right. Every day is going to be a day worth waking up for, even if it's those days where we get challenged, because what I truly believe is that our greatest challenges are our greatest blessings waiting to be discovered, and pushing it. And it's the same in life. To initially get that momentum going, that starting block is always the hardest place to be.
Hello and welcome to the Real Success Show. I'm your host, Candice Mama. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you are returning, welcome back. You know what to do by now. If you like this show, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I cannot wait to give you guys today's episode. It is with the man of steel himself, Skip Archimedes. If you have not heard about Skip yet, you are in for a treat. So without further ado, here's the one and only Skip Archimedes. Skip Archimedes, how are you today?
I am magical, thank you so much. And how's Candice?
Candice is doing great, Skip, especially because you have decided to be on the Real Success Show. And you know how much we love you, Skip. You know how much we just adore you. And I know how busy you are. So thank you for taking the time.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Oh, thank you. But Skip, I want to start us at the beginning because you have got such a fascinating story, right? So you were a gymnast and you broke your back and you were told that you would never walk again. And if people have never seen your videos, Skip more than walks now. Like it is ridiculous what you do with your body. Please take us into that story. What happened and how did you get to this point?
So here's what I want everyone to know to begin with, even before I say the story, because so many times when I say the story, it's even when I say it, it sounds unbelievable. But the beautiful thing is, where we're going as humanity, we have the capabilities to be unbelievable or to live this life of miracles. So I want people to know this. Every 3 seconds, we're being gifted from the intelligence of the universe, the intelligence of nature, the intelligence of this planet. We're being gifted 50,000 new cells every 3 seconds. So you can imagine that those brand new cells that come in, they're clean, they're pure, they're going to help the body to evolve. They're going to help the body to rebuild itself. They're going to help the body to regenerate. Now, obviously, I didn't know this back then. So back then when I was really struggling as a gymnast, I went in the gym one day with the wrong attitude, and I'm swinging around a high bar. And I wanted to be one of the first kids in the UK to do the triple back dismount from the high bar. And as I piked in and I relaxed and I kicked, instead of just going up and away from the bar, anything that you do in gymnastics, a millisecond can change everything. And I just let go of the bar a millisecond too late. And instead of going away from the bar and spinning around and going down, I'm spinning around, coming back over the bar and land straight on the bar and collapse in a heap. I'm in and out of consciousness. They get me to hospital. And yeah, that's when I got told that they've seen this injury before. People don't heal from this injury. And I'll be spending the rest of my life in a wheelchair and I'll never walk again. And here's what I want to say here, Candice, especially with what's going on around the world at the moment. Any decision that comes from fear is never going to support us. And I immediately started living in fear, immediately. And here's what I learned as well. Our belief systems are a filter. Now, just as we want to make sure that we filter our water so that we're drinking clean water with, like, even just through our eyes alone, like we've got 5 senses that we absorb life through. And the main one is visual. Now, what I learned is that what I was seeing was everything that turned me into a victim. And the belief system that I was filtering life through Now we do it through sight, we do it through sound, we do it through smell, we do it through touch, we do it through taste, all these different ways that we absorb life. Here's what I learned. Now, imagine this. Mum comes in one day and, you know, I've been told by, not just by, you know, one medical expert, one doctor, you know, because I was like, right, this guy knows nothing what he's talking about. Get him out and get somebody else in. I was like this stubborn teenager that was just wanted to hear only something good. But eventually when they was like, look, you got to accept what's going on here. And it just beat me down. And here's what I want to say to people. And Deepak Chopra is, I know you've had him on your platform, and I know this is one of his quotes. He says that people aren't dying of the diseases anymore. They're dying of the diagnosis of the diseases, which means what? Let's say that, imagine this, that you're being told that you've got cancer, heart disease, AIDS, you know, some of these life-threatening symptoms. Most people sit there and do what? Freak out mentally and emotionally, which sends chemicals, poisonous chemicals, throughout the whole system, because now we're living in fear. Now we don't feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Now we don't feel like we've got hope, and we feel hopeless. So as a result of that, I took myself down even further because I didn't even feel that there was hope. Now, Mum comes in one day and she says, hey, I don't think it's game over. I found someone, he broke his back. He was in traction. He came back fitter and stronger than before, and he went on to inspire millions of people around the world. And at that point, it was like a little light went back on inside, and I was like, who are you talking about? And she goes, Bruce Lee. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, Mum, the movie star? I said, it's a movie, Mum. I said, you know, movies are stories. This is not real. I said, just get out and let me rot. And that was the attitude that I had at the time, because I thought, what's the point of me being around anyone? I don't want people coming in and feeling sorry for me, despite the fact that I was feeling sorry for myself more than anything, because I'd become a victim. And people will say, oh yeah, but that's, you know, normal. No, being a victim is not normal. This is what I want everyone to understand. Being a victim, we live what I call below the line. It's like going under the water. You can hold your breath for a little bit of time, but you got to come back up for air. So being below the line, being that victim, it's like throwing a ball down where it bounces up. You can go below the line, but if you follow your course of journey, you know, the course of life, or the journey through life, without the resistance, without the mental resistance, the emotional resistance, all that resistance that we bring into the mix. Because remember, nothing in life means anything until we pin the meaning on it. If we pin a meaning on it where we are disabled, where we're a victim, guess what our reality is going to be? Exactly that. So for me, my ball went down and it just stuck because there was no air in it. It didn't bounce up, and I'm just suffering. And my mum says, look, I found out that he broke his back and you broke your back. If he did it, why can't you? You got to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You got to find out how he did it and work out what's going to help you bounce back. And that was all I needed. It was like, that was it, because it refocused the mind. Because remember this, where our focus goes, our energy goes. And we've all heard that saying a gazillion times before, but it's so true. So now my focus was going into, right, how did he do this? And here's what I learned, that we've got 3 engines that we can go through life in. One's the body, one's the mind, one's the spirit. And these 3 engines, they all need different fuel, but they're like 3 different characters. But like anything in life, if we learn to bring things together so they can work in harmony, it's where they cross over, that's where miracles happen in life. And it's that crossover part where we've got the mind crossed over with the body crossed over with the spirit, and that all overlapping, but they're overlapping with 0 resistance. So I thought, right, this body's down, but let me ask you this question. Can the mind, do you know that can our mind make us ill, or can it make us well?
Yeah.
Can it make us rich? Can it make us poor?
Yep.
Can it make us happy? Can it make us sad?
Yep.
It can do either or. So, you know, the extremes, depending on where our mind is focused all the time, I literally mean all the time, it's going to depend on what we experience. So while I'm now absorbing all this stuff that I'm learning, oh my God, I didn't even know what this spiritual engine was. I'd heard about religion, but I'd never heard of anything like spirit back then, like over 25 years or 28 years ago now. And the most coolest thing started to just unfold naturally, because now I'm looking at Bruce Lee and I'm like, right, now he's explained the body, the mind, and the spirit. I've got to understand how we get the most out of the mind, because there's all these different frequencies that we can go in our mind. We can go in theta, we can go in delta, we can go, you know, all these different frequencies where in those frequencies, different things unfold. Then I was like, right, the body's out of action for the moment, but I know if I focus the mind and I open up this heart, and that's the key, is to open up the mind, but to open up the heart, so that the energy through the heart, just like a bubble bubbling up to the surface, that energy will naturally bubble up to the mind, and it puts different stuff up there. And what we now know, and this is according to Dr. Joe Dispenza, like I'm launching this 5-part mini TV series, and he's one of the people in it. And he says that according to the psychological model, 90% of people's thoughts and emotions in today's world are negative. 90%. This is not a low number. That's like a lot. So obviously I didn't know any of this stuff back then, but I'm like, right, I've got to direct, you know, my thoughts in the right way. And okay, so I've got to love my body the way it is right now, because before I was disowning it. And it was like, I didn't want it to be a part of me because it was broken. And in my head, if this is broken, how can I love something that's broken? If it's broken, it's broken. What I didn't realize is that we can fix anything that's broken. And that's the power that we have as human beings. And what I truly believe now is exactly what's going on the planet right now. The extremes are separating. And what do I mean? The ones who are being sick and tired, or being sick of being poor, or being sick of having life hit him all the time, they're going to go in one direction. The ones who want to wake up and get the awakening and understand that we're actually living on planet, you know, we're living in heaven. That's the truth. But we don't see it. Why? Because it is meant to be a planet of contrast. We're meant to have night and day, light and dark, rich and poor. We're meant to have all of that. But the ones that are watching this now, this particular time phase that we're going through in humanity, we're in this phase of creation. And everyone is creating their own reality. And what we can do is we can literally create a reality on this planet where we can have abundant health and energy pulsing through the system. We can have unlimited wealth. We can create the most amazing relationships. We can go on the most incredible adventures around the world, and everyone can experience this. And this is what I teach people to do. So back then, as I'm opening up to this new world of possibilities, and I realized that we can actually be limitless in our creations, of course, the first thing for me was, I've got to get this body working well. I've got to get it free so that I can run and jump and crawl and all this. And I remember the first day that I stood up, and, you know, after being told that I'd never walk again. And I'll never forget it. I remember it like it happened like minutes ago. And I remember standing up, and I was like, right, whatever you are in your infinite intelligence, you got me now for the rest of my life. And I made a deal back then to sacrifice personal will for divine will. And however, I broke it. And I only recently, about 10 years ago, reclaimed it. Why? Because what happened was, as I started to restore the body, and the mind was focused, I now have no fear. And we sat down with the family where, you know, I'm stood up and I said, right, you got me for the rest of my life. You got me as a servant. How you've got me free within the body again. Let's make these miracles happen in other areas of lives, and give me what I need so I can teach it to other people. So we sat down with the family, and I'm getting ready to go out and create a life of miracles. And Mum says, we've all just witnessed a miracle. You should not be doing what you're doing now. You're free, you're independent, you can look after yourself now. What do you want to do with your life? And I didn't even have to answer the question. She looks at me and she goes, you better not be thinking what I think you're thinking. And I said, Mum, I've got to go back to the sport. She goes, no, why would you want to go back? I said, because it feels right in my gut. And the first thing that Bruce Lee taught me was don't think, feel. Most people's thinking is going to take them away from their ultimate destiny. Why? Because our thoughts are meant to keep us in our comfort zone. Our thoughts are given to us for survival, to make sure that we survive as a species. But the challenge with our thoughts in today's world is they're just mostly negative. So when I said to her, look, this feels right in my gut, I said, there's nothing you can say, Mum, that's going to stop me. I said, you can either accept it or you're going to be in resistance for the rest of your life because I'm going back. And she's like, well, what if you break your back again? I said, I know how to heal it. I said, I know it sounds crazy, Mum, but I've got zero fear. So I went out and I found myself a world-class coach. He was 2 times world champion. And we started working together. And literally 18 months after working with him, I'm stood on the podium. They're giving me the gold medal for the English Sports Acrobatics Championships. Now, the only reason I say that is that champion that I discovered in me is in every single person on the planet. But there's a new champion getting ready to be born on the planet. And it's not a champion where somebody wins and somebody loses. It's a new champ because that's the competitive energy. There's nothing wrong with it if you're in a sport with rules. Because, you might win or lose the race or the game, but ultimately in life, you're not going to, be beaten up and lose. Now, the biggest force of life is this creative energy. Because if we go into the competitive energy, we cut off the creative energy. We go into the creative energy, we're limitless. So for me, when I came off that podium and everyone was in just as much shock as me, people started asking me, how did you do it? Now, remember the deal that I had with our creator. I said, right, you got me. I said, this is it. You keep giving me what I need and I'll go out there and I'll be a servant of humans. I'll be a servant of life. And well, not just humans, but a servant of life, because we're literally destroying the animal kingdom and the fish kingdom as well. So we got to start to appreciate life at the highest levels. Now, back then, now imagine this, I'm 48 years old now. So we're going back 27 years. So 27 years ago, imagine this. They go, how did you do it? And I start talking about energies, frequencies, vibrations. How do you think people received that 27 years ago?
Really, really not well.
No. And I'll be going on a rant. I'll say, guys, we got this whole game of life wrong. When we start to understand energy, we can realize that we can bounce in all these different frequencies. And we got to learn how to increase our vibrational frequency, because we are just a vibration. And I'd be looking at people and they're just like, the hell's this dude talking about? And I realized real quick that people were saying, Skip's got a really good story, but this dude is off with the fairies. So what did I do? I stopped talking about it literally overnight, because I didn't want people to think I was a weirdo. And I was like, look, I'm really sorry, but people aren't ready for this stuff. And I don't know how to talk to people in any other way but the truth. So I took what I learned in the business world. Now, 27 years ago, not knowing a damn thing about business, we do £1 million in business, just over $1 million in year 1. Now, that's a lot of money today. But back then, that was a small little fortune. So what did I do? I started, going out there, being financially free, doing what I was loving. My job back then was I was bringing acrobatics to some of the world's biggest shows. And the more crazy my ideas were, the more my name just kept coming up in all these different environments. We were doing big TV shows. If like pop stars and rock stars are putting 80 to 100,000 people in a stadium, my job was to bring all the acrobatics to their shows. We were doing like X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, shows at the Royal Opera House, at the Royal Albert Hall, like all, big contracts. And it was awesome. But then about 10 years ago, this calling came. And this is what I want everyone to understand. We all have a calling. We've all come to this planet back at this time for a reason, and everybody's reason is different. And this is what I then said, okay, you want me to start doing this? I'll open up the doors. And if you want me to do it, I will quit that industry overnight. But we got to open up all these other doors. And before I knew it, bam, all these doors started to open up. Someone that, said to me, can you come and do a talk? And I rejected it first because I was like, no, I don't want to do a talk, because when I talk, people think I'm a weirdo. And I've got a really good reputation doing what I'm doing right now. And I love what I'm doing right now. And one little talk led to another, led me to running, all my own events, which we obviously run online now, but we run exclusive retreats all over the world. And it's now led me to coaching celebrities like world famous CEOs, some of our world's top athletes, and just people who want to take their life up to the next level and beyond. And it's been a roller coaster of a ride, because I can tell you now, all the money that I've earned, which we do millions and millions, every single year, and we've taught people how to do millions, and we do now at the events. And the awesome thing is, if we have a belief system that we believe that miracles can happen, because if you don't believe miracles can happen, guess what? They're never going to manifest, because they have to go through your filters. And as you're absorbing all this different information in life, depending on what your belief systems are going to depend on how you absorb that information, and then what action step you take or you don't take. And it's awesome. It's the best job in the world. It's like, I've never had a paycheck, even when I've had, 7 and 8 figure numbers come into the account. It's good looking at numbers go up. But I can tell you now, someone who's here to serve people, I've never had a feeling like when I get the results through other people, that fuels me up better than my own results. And I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but here's what I know. If you, and anybody watching this, this is one of the keys to being an entrepreneur, it's being one of the keys for being financially free. You've got to help enough other people get what they want in life. When you go out there to serve people so that they're getting what they want, but never at the expense of yourself. Because what's happening is people are starting to sacrifice a part of themselves for their so-called mission. You should never sacrifice anything at all. You want to sacrifice what isn't working. So yeah, sacrifice laziness, sacrifice procrastination, sacrifice, stress and all that stuff. But that's letting go of stuff. That's like cutting off a ball and chain. What we should be doing is discovering more parts of ourselves as the journey of life starts to unfold. And here's what I've learned. The more I know, the less I know. It really is true. And in life, I really think that if people get hungry, like Les Brown talks about this, he said, you've got to be hungry. And it's such a good saying, but not hungry for food, hungry to discover more parts so that we can bring those parts out in life. Because this is the truth. Over 90% of what we are is non-visible and non-physical. I mean, think about this. Think about these devices. Right, think about this resembling our body and our mind. It's physical, we can touch it, we know it's there. But think about what you're using. You download an app, it doesn't take up any physical stuff anywhere. And the better you learn how to update your apps and use those apps, the more you get out of the devices. Well, it's the same with us. Now, with that 3G, 4G, 5G and Wi-Fi, that's a frequency. Can you see it? No. Can you touch it? No. Can you smell it? No. Can you hold it? No. So it's non-visible and non-physical, but yet we're using it every single day, but yet we think that we're just physical. And it's the biggest myth ever given to humanity, because 95% of what we are is non-visible and non-physical. And if people want the science behind it, in our DNA, we've got 12 strands of DNA. In most people, only 2 are active. So how do we get the rest activated so that we can start to use more of what we are? The only way is to increase the vibrational frequency. You can't buy your money there. You can't create success out there and activate them. You've got to be able to discover more parts of what you are. And that's what we love teaching people. And we have witnessed the most incredible miracles ever. I mean, I remember like one of our first ones. We were at running one of our retreats. We run a 5-day retreat, and we start at 7:30 in the morning. The earliest we finish is like 10:30 at night. And there's 49 processes that I take people through in 5 days. We had a lady come. She was born not being able to hear. She has 6 operations throughout her life to try and hear. Ultimately, each operation failed because she couldn't hear. And she says, she meets me at an event, and we if we have people who are deaf who come, we have people do sign language. So they can't hear the spoken word, but they still get the communication, and they're still in the energy field of the event. And she said, oh, I heard you called the Miracle Man. Can you heal me? And I said, well, look, I don't really work that way. I said, because if I heal you, ultimately, I'm actually taking your power away. And I said, whereas if I teach you how to heal you, you keep that power for the rest of your life. So she came on the retreat. She left that retreat with perfect hearing in one ear, could hear a little bit in another ear, comes back to the next retreat, and she leaves that retreat with perfect hearing in both ears. And 4 years on, she's still hearing perfectly. This is how awesome we are as human beings. Every single one of us that can breathe, that has a heart that's beating, that can focus the mind, we're all the living miracle, every single one of us. We just got to discover it. So I could carry on talking forever and ever and ever about this. So,
and I could listen forever and ever and ever and ever. Geez, Skip, what a life, what a story. It's insane. And it brought this quote to my mind. Watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. And watch your actions for it becomes your destiny. And I think that's exactly what you're describing, right? Like this computing system up here that we have yet to really fully encompass. I think as most human beings, a lot of us choose, the path of seeking, but then there is a lot of people who choose the path of existing. And they're just like, let's just see where this life thing takes me, right? But when you observe these miracles, Skip, and I'm pretty sure that there are people who still have that internal resistance. I'm sure there are people listening to us who have that internal resistance. What is the first step to accepting how powerful we are?
Well, this is why I love running the event. So even like we got an event, a 3-day event, it's called Supercharge Your Life. And what happens is, and we say like that event, this is where miracles get born, because what we do is we take people through step by step. Now, here's what I've learned. And I used to see this a lot when we used to be able to run actual live events. And I would say to people, because I would get a lot of people come into and it would be a woman who might say, oh my God, my husband really needs this, but he just doesn't believe in any of this stuff. And I said, I understand, because most men, the left side of the brain is the logical part of our brain. And that's where most men, that's the operating system that they use. The challenge with that is if they don't go into this feminine, this creative part of themselves, they never unlock what's truly possible. So what we do at the event is we take people through processes, we use technologies, we use games, we do all these different things that ultimately it gives them another tool for their toolbox. Because until they've experienced it themselves, it's too easy to go BS. And what a belief system, what BS stand for, belief system. So they go BS because their belief system doesn't believe it. But if we can then have them either directly experience it, or they see other people at the event who are literally saying, oh my God, this literally just happened. And we literally witnessed miracles at the event. We've had people, and we show evidence of this, like, depending on whether it's a masterclass or it's at the event where we bring them on live, but we get them to speak to these people who either got rid of health conditions instantaneously, or they've gone and manifested crazy amounts of money instantaneously. And you can't even explain this stuff. The only way it works is because the challenge is some people's minds will be over there, then their body's over there, and their wealth creation is in another place. And they're all so far apart that they're not connected for the individual person's experience. Now, what we know to be true The stuff that you're made of, Candice, is exactly the same stuff that I'm made of. The only difference is, biologically, we have different parents. Now, we get a little bit from them, but it's less than 2%. The good science around our world is showing this. So what does the other 98% come down to? Belief systems and lifestyle habits. This is why it matters not if someone's got cancer in their family or diabetes, but if they live a similar lifestyle to their parents and their grandparents that might have got it, and they take on similar belief systems, well, guess what they're going to manifest? Similar results. Whereas we change the lifestyle habits, we change the belief system, we change what we're focused on a daily basis, we unravel a completely different experience in life. The magic is in every single cell that gives us this physical experience. And we've got trillions of them working for us every single second without us even having to give it a single thought. We don't have to think about, come on, heart, please make sure that you keep beating when I'm sleeping. Come on, lungs, make sure you breathe when I'm sleeping because I want to wake up. We don't have to think any of that stupid stuff. 98% of what we are is happening automatically. So that 2%, all we've got to do is, first of all, believe that miracles can happen and learn how we do that. And that's what we teach people at our events. We give them literally step by step. We don't leave any stone unturned because there's a cause and an effect. Like, you know, if I want to build a muscle, I want to build a bicep, what do I have to do? I can't sit there and just think, oh, come on, biceps, grow. I've got to put pressure on it. I've got to put a demand on it. Just like we put pressure and demand on a piece of coal, boom, a diamond gets formed. We as humans need to have pressure put on us. We need to be squeezed because then what comes out of us, if we get squeezed and we've got anger and we've got resentment and we've got all that resistance and that stress inside, you give someone a little squeeze, bam, that stuff's going to come out. But we learn how to take back control of our inner world so that when we get squeezed, the intelligence of nature, the intelligence of the universe, it gets to breathe through us. And then we can literally be limitless in all of our creations. And it's the best journey. There's no other journey to take in the game of life because nothing tastes as good as this stuff feels.
Skip, you mentioned earlier that, you know, trusting your feeling. So I've got a bittersweet relationship with that statement. Only reason being, I know for myself, right? I went through a journey of forgiveness, but I know the person I was prior to forgiving versus the person I am now. Now I can say trust my feelings because I think I'm a centered human being who's always trying to grow. Back then, the feelings I had, I could not trust because they came from wounding and, you know, desperation, sadness, lack of belonging. So when we say that statement, do you think that, you know, a certain level of healing has to take place? Does someone first have to take like a Supercharge Your Life course or, you know, something similar to that in order to trust their feelings?
Well, I want to say yes and no. I want to say yes because I want everyone who's watching this to come to Supercharge Life. Why? Because it's a kick-ass 3 days. The truth is we have all of everything that we need within us. All of us do. But can we figure it out ourselves? Of course we can. But what will happen is it's going to take you a hell of a lot more time. And the only thing that we can't get back, we can get health back, we can get love back, we get money back, we can get experiences back, we can get all of this stuff back. The only thing that we can't get back is time. So what I say is like, when I got that world-class gymnastics coach, could I have done it without him? Possibly, but it would have taken me probably maybe 5 years. And I did it in 18 months. Why? Because I had a world-class coach on me every single day. Now, what happens at something like Supercharge Life? Because here's the difference between feeling and thoughts. If we drop in our hearts, we actually know the truth. And when we're in our heart, there's no fear, there's no pain. Because all the heart knows how to do is love. And love is the glue that's gluing the whole universe together. It should glue families together, tribes together. But in our own families now, people aren't sharing love, they're sharing their thoughts. That's the challenge. Now, usually what happens is when we have like scar tissue, like, and we got these wounds. Of course, there is a certain amount of time that is needed to heal the wounds. It's like, but here's what I want to share as well, because we're talking about miracles. And we show this at Supercharge Life. We show a cancerous tumor the size of my fist disappearing in 3 minutes. Was it 2 minutes or 3 minutes? 2 or 3 minutes. And it's all being done with energy. And it blows people's minds. This is the power that we have as humans. Because when you went through your forgiveness, which, by the way, completely blew my mind. I only found out about this 2 days ago. I went to do some research, and mind blowing at the highest levels. And I was showing all my family, I was like, guys, no one ever has the right to complain ever again. I said, because none of us are going through stuff like this. I said, look, I never would have guessed in a million years, but forgiveness is so powerful. And, you know, I didn't go through anything like what you've gone through, but in this 5 mini-part TV series that we're putting together, I got ripped off about 400K from 2 business partners. I fell 50 feet down a waterfall, hit this rock at the bottom, snapped my tailbone, snapped that wrist, had to heal from that. And I was on stage 3 days after. This is how awesome this stuff is. You see the tailbone snap, you know, you just look at the x-rays. And they wanted to operate, and they said, right, you're going to be in rehab for 9 months. And I just followed, and I'm not against operations, because being an athlete, I've had a stack of them. But this guidance was like, no, you're not getting the operation. And it didn't make any logical sense. And then when I came out of running that event, the girl who I was with at the time, I just got this download that our lives were meant to go in different directions, and we were pulling in different directions. So then I finished a 5-year relationship and had a beautiful relationship with a daughter. And I just said, look, you're going to think this is mad. I said, but I'm getting this from the same place that I've got all this guidance. We're not meant to be together. And it ripped me apart more than anything, because now I'm going in the mind thinking, if I just let go of someone who I love, she loves me, I love her daughter to bits, but I got shown timelines. And as we start to unlock and we get more of these strands in our activated, and I said, this is where your life's meant to be going. I said, and mine's meant to be going in this direction. And it was hard. But why are we showing all that? Because life is going to knock us down, and it is not to knock us down. It's because the way that we're playing life, now it's time to regenerate. Now it's time to rebuild ourselves. Now it's time to plug in at a high level, so that as we get back up, now we get back up as a new, improved version of ourselves. Just like we hit update your app, we've got to keep updating ourselves on a daily basis. And the only way is to be activated. The only way, but we have to look how many areas of life we're being deactivated. And if we get this flow of being activated, we literally get to create heaven on earth. Because why? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And you can't look at things through the eyes that are in the head. You've got to look at through the eyes that are in the heart. And it's this energy that goes up and it feeds the eyes. And all of a sudden we can look at anything, and we can now see the beauty and the wisdom in anything and everything, just like what you had to go through. And forgiveness is a major part of that. Because if we don't forgive, we know at some level we're still holding on to it. And that's like holding on to a hot burning rock. And we might get used to it, but it's going to burn. And even if we get used to it, it's still going to burn. We just got to let go of it. And when we let go of it, that's where you said that you can now trust your feelings. If we can't trust our own feelings, we're not trusting our own inner world. And one of the number one things that people have got to learn in today's world, which is becoming more toxic every single day, is we've got to learn how to not let anything in this outer world affect our inner world. When we can have full control of our inner world, we start to walk the enlightened path. And this is the stuff that I love teaching people, because it wakes people up. to realize that we are the universe in its greatest form of intelligence that we know of. But if we don't learn how to drive this thing well, it's like putting someone who's never flown an aeroplane into the cockpit and saying, good luck. You know they're going to crash it. And this is what's happening for most humans. They're crashing and burning. Why? One, the education systems are broken. Two, all the media platforms are now being controlled, and all the narratives on all the platforms are now being controlled. So the truth is being blocked from most people. And what happens when we bring them to our events, like in this normal world, life makes it really hard for people to feel good and really easy for them to feel bad. We just flip that around at the events. We make it really easy for people to feel good and really hard for them to feel bad. So we literally start to get them rewired. And then what comes out of them? Their purpose, their passion for life. And all of a sudden, they start getting hungrier and hungrier for more life. And they start to create this momentum. But creating momentum is like, let's say that we've got, I've got like 10 nieces and nephews. And I remember like when they were all growing up and they were like, come on, uncle, take us to the playground. So I'd always take them to the playground and, I'd get them on the little merry-go-round thing. And they'd be like, come on, pushes, come on, like a superhero. And that's sitting on there. And I'd spin it so quick that you'd see like one flying off here. Because I'd be like, right, if you ain't holding on, kids, you're going to come flying off this. So like, you better grip well. And to begin with, it's hard to get it going. But when you get it going, all I've got to do now is I can just stand there and just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And it's the same in life. To initially get that momentum going, that starting block is always the hardest place to be. But through our events and our teachings and what we share with people, the momentum that they create is life-changing. And it's the best gift to give people.
Oh, it reminded me of what Deepak Chopra says, which is we are all infinite possibilities, that in every single human being lives infinite just possibility. And it is only ourselves who lack the imagination to express it, right? And I think that's exactly where we find ourselves. And fear is such a critical thing. I think that we live in so much fear that we're afraid to, when you told me, Skip, I've got to be honest, when you were like, I ended a relationship and my tailbone broken, I am like, okay. If I had ended a relationship, I might be like, okay, universe, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but that's not it. I'm not going to do that part. So the fact that you've got so much faith in what it's become is insane.
It took me 3 years to do it. Yeah, because we loved each other. And I was like, this is the stupidest advice ever. I'm obviously receiving this wrong. Yeah. But what I learned was, in anything in life, we always have to let go of love. And it wasn't like, she'd done anything wrong or I'd done anything wrong. It was, and this is one of the, but I don't want to sound too crazy here. I can jump on people's timelines. So that just as we can tune into a radio frequency in the car and we know, right, if I want to listen to rock music, I press a button, I bring up a frequency of a rock channel and I want to receive rock music. Wherever we go, we're going to receive that music. You can't get away from the frequency. You have to change the frequency. And it sounds quite weird and woo-woo-y, and I don't want to share too much of this stuff because people will think I'm an absolute weirdo. But we're all in control of our destiny, every single one of us. And what I started to get shown was the path that is meant to unfold for certain individuals. And this is why I started to get real high level clients, because I was able to go in and tweak certain things with them, just like a mechanic would go in and work on an engine. I'm working on different engines, but it's not a physical engine. And all of a sudden, I can then get them to have the download, and now they see what they're supposed to see. And all of a sudden, when just like, we're getting downloads on here, we're meant to have these downloads. We're meant to have these shots of wisdom. We're meant to have these insights into how life is meant to unfold for us. And everyone is meant to get it themselves. And it doesn't matter if no one around them gets it. This is their destiny. This is their insight. This is their guidance. This is their future. And the challenge is, if we don't live in the heart, we can't get the downloads. It's just that simple. Whereas when we do live in the heart, we'll get downloads every single day. And those downloads are like, it's like having an epiphany. And you notice when a lot of people get most of their inspiration, they're either on the toilet or in the shower. Why? Because most of those times, because the body can't get rid of the waste until it's relaxed. So they're like sitting there, and at that point where they get relaxed, bam, that shot of wisdom, because now they go into a different frequency where there's less resistance. Now they get the download. Now they get that shot of inspiration. Whereas we can have that stuff consistently, because the intelligence is out there and it's in here. So we've got to be connected to both so that we can create this balance and the alignment. And when we create that balance and the alignment, it's just a formula like 2 + 2 is always going to equal 4. It doesn't matter who does the math. Doesn't matter what age they are. Doesn't matter what they believe. That's the math. And when you create that balance and you've got that alignment and you're open, then in that zone where they cross, that's the miracle zone. And we can reinforce that in people's lives again and again and again, so they can repeat it, not just think, oh God, that was amazing, now my life is over. Because you look at it, say, like a lot of, it happens with a lot of astronauts where they go to the moon, they come back, and then they hit mental depression. Why? Because they're like, what the hell's left in life? And what they don't realize is that what they were seeing on the outside, on the inside, there's actually more to discover. Way more to discover. Because they're going to a dead planet. Yeah. It's great to go to a dead planet and look at our planet, but we've got to discover the whole universe, which is what we're made of. We're all made of stardust. But we're made of stardust with so many different elements coming together. Like we've got a mental body, an emotional body, a physical body, a light body, an energetic body. We've got all these different elements that all come together. And when we start to understand how the body actually works, and it's all automated, which is our vehicle through life, it's our spaceship through life. And if we learn how to get this thing working better, every day is going to be a day worth waking up for, even if it's those days where we get challenged. Because what I truly believe is that our greatest challenges are our greatest blessings waiting to be discovered.
I completely believe that too. And also, when you were saying, how we get our greatest thoughts when we're doing benign things, I've always lived my life according to that philosophy, that I get divine inspiration. When people say, how did you end up here, or do that or do this? I'm like, I just had divine inspiration and I acted on it, right? Because that's the key, to act on that thought, to act on that inspiration without fear. And Skip, if you could give people one piece of takeaway practical advice that they could implement today that will help them get into more alignment or change their thought patterns or life in any way, what would that be?
Wow. Oh my God, there's so many. You've asked me a question now where I'm like, right, I want to run it in like teaching mode. So the one thing that we've spoken about today, it's got to come down to belief. Because when I was in traction and I'm believing that I was never going to stand or walk ever again, as soon as Mum came in and told me about Bruce Lee, that led me to listen to some great people that have walked on our planet that had great wisdom. And it will come down to this one simple saying. And I had this saying so that I'd open my eyes and this saying would be on the wall in front of me. And I just was mesmerized by it. And even when I went into the business world, not knowing a damn thing about business, this is one of the things that I truly believe allowed us to do over $1 million in the first year, over 2.5 decades ago. And it's this saying, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right. So what's the takeaway from that? You better start thinking you can kick ass. that you can live a freaking awesome life, that you can break through the challenges that life's hitting you with right now. Because if your thought is, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, no one loves me, and all of these are the primary questions that just keep going on and on and on in people's minds, that's going to become your reality. So the number one thing is we've got to create belief systems and beliefs that empower us. And we're meant to be stretched. You know, you're not meant to be handed it on a plate. In fact, look at most rich kids. They end up with depression. They end up never appreciating the value of any money. They never have to work for anything. And they end up, as they go through life, as victims. Whereas if we get to discover that we have this magic within us and that we can believe that whatever we set our mind to, wherever we set our focus, that the truth is the universe is here to support you in everything, in all of its glory, that all of a sudden people get to discover it, and then they get to be somebody who isn't just a consumer in today's world, they're a producer, which means what? They now get to leave life better because they walked on this planet. The challenge that we've got at the moment is everyone's like, take. And in that taking, because they're not conscious of how they're taking, we're actually ripping life away from our own planet. And we've only got to about 2048 to turn things around. It's not long. And if we don't turn it around, we won't have air to breathe, and humans will just be deleted on the planet. Because you know, you look at all the different life forms as we've gone from the dinosaurs, all these different species that have been on the planet. We're meant to be the most intelligent one. And this is what I truly believe. We have that intelligence to be able to turn everything around so that we can create life in alignment with nature, in alignment with the universe, in alignment with all other living things on the planet, and in alignment with each other. I truly believe that that world is possible, and I truly believe it's going to come in our lifetime.
Oh, I love it. As we start to wrap up, Skip, in one sentence, what is real success to you?
Oh, I love it that you link it to real success. So real success to me is a kick-ass team of people that I love connecting with, that are here to support people to live better lives, because that's what real success is. It's people coming together. Success is the health, the wealth, and the happiness. It's all those three elements where you've got this abundance of energy, you've got high immunity, so you're never going to be worried about some sickness or virus or ailment. You're going to know what the truth is, and you're going to be able to direct your mind so that you keep creating, and you're focusing that mind, and you get to create with amazing people, and you get to create in a way that your creations are adding value to people's lives, and we become happy because we're connected to the truth. So to me, that's real success.
I love it. And the final question: what is one thing about Skip Archimedes that we cannot find on Google?
Oh my God, there's a stack of things. You can't even really find Skip Archimedes on Google. Only in lockdown did I start to actually form a team to want to go public, because all of our stuff, with some of the stuff that we do, it's so out there. I'm too easy to be targeted. I'm too easy to be made to look like an absolute weirdo, a freak. So what's one thing that you won't find on Google? There's a lot that you won't find on Google, but maybe it could be, okay. So, oh my God, you're asking for absolute honesty here. I can't even believe I'm going to share this. Right. There's a professional Skip Archimedes in how he presents himself. But there's also the kid at Skip Archimedes behind the scenes, where I love to play so much at this game of life that it doesn't matter where I go. This childlike spirit and it allows us to look at life through the wondrous eyes that innocent children do. So behind the scenes, playing like a kid, like all the time. It's like I just refuse to grow up, because I think that I look at most people when they grow up and they're boring and they get stuck in their ways. And it's like, I vow never to become one of those people. So I am not childish, but childlike in my approach to life.
That is a great, great, great way to look at it, Skip. And because you're childlike in your spirit, I want, when you and I finally meet in person, you have to engage with me in one of my dance videos. I mean, you have to do it now.
On. I love it. I checked out your Instagram. I'm like, right, I didn't know who's going to be interviewing me here. And the first thing was you like, I was like, oh my God, we're going to have so much fun. This is going to be epic.
I love it. It is on Skip Archimedes. We are doing our dancer challenge. We're doing it.
Yes.
Oh, Skip, thank you so much for the graciousness of your sharing and just of your spirit. It has been an honor having you on the Real Success Show.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor being here, and thank you for what you do and the team behind the scenes. I don't know how you connected with Real Success, but they found a winner with you. Your heart, it just shines so much light out into the world, and I'm sure everybody who's watched this or any of the other interviews that you've done absolutely feel it. So I think our world is blessed because you're here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Skip. Thank you. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I mean, I don't even know what to say after that incredible conversation. Something that stuck out to me was that quote, which is, watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your action. And watch your actions for it becomes your destiny. I really do hope that you guys took something from this that is going to allow you to live your best life. If you are not a part of the Real Success Club, be sure to check us out in the show notes below. And if you have not attended any of our summits, be sure that you are registering. We would love to have you on that platform. And I promise you, you will leave transformed. If this is where you choose to leave us, thank you for your time. It has been a privilege to spend this hour with you. And I look forward to seeing you again next week.